switching gears a little bit, let's start talking a little bit about college football. We got the Heisman. The finalists have been announced. The Heisman will be announced on Saturday. The four finalists are Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr. Oh, nice graphic.
Thank you.
Dang.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ooh,
Okay.
ooh, that's
Bo
fire.
Nix
Yes, sir.
and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think all three of us have after having talked to you guys, all agree on who should be, but the odds say otherwise. Jason, why is Jaden Daniels ahead of Michael Penix Jr. to win this award?
Because he can run the football. Alright, but let me tell you what's really going on. Okay, in my opinion, Jaden Daniels has looked the best. He has the most accounted for touchdowns from the quarterbacks. He's ran for 1,000 yards, threw for about 3,800. Um, I think that's why he's ahead. But from every other Heisman candidate I've ever seen in the past, they've had a winning team. Lamar Jackson might be the little exception, but during that year, no one else has looked even near as good. Um, from every Heisman winner I've seen in the past, they've had that one winning game, and that's what's defined their Heisman race. You look at RG3. Andrew Luck should have won the Heisman that year. Why did RG3 win it? Because he had that one game, and he does the Heisman pose, and then he wins the Heisman. You look at oh, Christian McCaffrey should have won a Heisman. Why didn't he win a Heisman? Because Alabama had that last very good victory, and their running back Derrick Henry wins the Heisman. In my opinion, the Heisman is a more of a winning stat than more of a who's actually been the best player, right? I think a lot of the times previously, um, again, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it's always been that special game where they come play a good another top 10 team, and then they pose and they say, give me the Heisman, give me the Heisman, and then they win the Heisman. So, um, I think Jaden Daniels is a great player. Don't get me wrong; he was looked fantastic. I just don't think, from what I know and what I've seen from other Heisman winners, that he's gonna win the Heisman. I think it's going to be Penix.
Jerry, kind of going off of what Jason said, what do you think about Jaden Daniels being that leader as far as the odds makers go versus Michael Penix, who's led a Washington team who is predicted to win 8 games this year, to winning the last year of the Pac-12, beating Oregon twice, Bo Nix, the other finalist, beating him twice and making it into the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stats, there's no denying, the facts are the facts. Jane Daniels has put up more yards, more touchdowns than Michael Penix this year.
And more
But
L.
yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're a 3-loss team, it it doesn't make any sense why. I think Jane Daniels was like minus 1,400
Yeah,
after Friday night. Doesn't make any sense. How can you not give it to the guy that you just said it, went undefeated, led his team to a college football playoff, beat the at the time Heisman favorite in Bo Nix twice, not once but twice this year. Absolutely outdueled him. It makes absolutely no sense. Jaden Daniels is a heck of a player, and sorry to the Ohio State guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. just isn't winning it this year. It's a quarterback award. Good to see Marvin Harrison Jr. in there for him getting his. He deserves to be in that conversation. But I know all three of us put in a bet when we saw Michael Penix Jr. like plus 1,200 plus 1,000 odds. There's no way they cannot give it to Michael Penix this year.
And the problem is they're probably not going to. There's this SEC bias that it just exists throughout college football, and it's showing up in other places as well. Look at that segue.
Ooh,
What the heck?
nice,
How
nice.
does Florida State not make the college football playoff? Alabama comes in and they beat again another SEC team, which number one team, 29 games straight. Massive win streak, don't get me wrong. Number one team, back to back national champions. Absolutely incredible job by Alabama. And funny enough, the last time Georgia had lost prior to this SEC championship was to Alabama in a SEC championship 2 years ago. So pretty funny how the world's a little bit cyclical. But back to the controversy. Florida State goes undefeated, 13-0, wins an ACC championship, and yet still doesn't get in over an Alabama team that lost one game and shouldn't have beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl, which means they wouldn't have even been in this conversation to begin with. And yet somehow Florida State is the one left out in the cold. Jason, what is going on with this?
Money, 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 money.
Money.
All right, money makes the world go round, and so does so does it with the playoffs. In my opinion, Florida State deserves to be in there. If they got in there, they would have got smacked. We all know
Well, you
this.
can see that with the line. Georgia
Yeah,
right now is 14-point favorites in the bowl game. What
they,
game
Oh
was that?
wow.
uh,
The Sugar Bowl.
Alamo Sugar Bowl. Okay, um, they would have got smacked if they would have made it, and that's the whole reason why they don't want another repeat of TCU Georgia last year. They don't want to see another team actually get demolished. They want interest, entertainment, fans, and that leads all to the revenue. So, in my opinion, Florida State's not in there because they're A, not in the SEC, and B, because they don't have a quarterback, and they would have got smacked with that.
I guess that's fair enough. And honestly, if it's supposed to be the best four teams, I think the committee got it right. But it's hard for me to. And also, it's the Orange Bowl. Sorry, guys, that's on me. Orange Bowl, Florida State, Georgia. My bad. My bad. But it's sort of they showed out of conference. The SEC has a losing record this year in out of conference games, a losing record, and a losing record to the ACC, which everyone's like, oh, the ACC is terrible, oh, it's trash. SEC has a losing record to the ACC this year, and it's absurd to me that everyone just puts the like Tennessee is still ranked. They have 4 losses this year, and one of them to Florida. Yet Tennessee is somehow still ranked. There's this bias towards the SEC teams. Now, having said that, I think I'm glad Alabama's in because Michigan Alabama is a much better game than Michigan Florida State or Washington Florida State. I'm very happy about the quality of games we're about to see, but I think it's impossible to deny that the committee and college sports in general has a massive bias towards the SEC, and maybe that's deserved, but color me not a fan.
Yeah.
I th- Another thing to add on to you got to think like that same TCU team beat the Michigan last year. So like, there's always a chance that they could win,
That was the
but
best. That was the best day of college football of my entire life. I know Ohio State lost, but are you kidding me? That TCU Michigan game and then the
yep,
Ohio State Georgia game, those were fantastic. That
they were
Yeah,
was
they
great.
were
that was
great
amazing.
games.
That was amazing. And then to turn around and have a 66-6, whatever that score was, that was
Yeah.
absurd. And the national championship, and that's what they're trying to avoid. I understand it, but you hate to see it for Florida State. You hate to see it for those kids that literally spent, the entire summer and they worked their butts off and they won every game. They did exactly what everyone told them to do, and they still said, "Sorry, see you later. Ain't gonna happen."
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's not like they didn't play anybody either. They played LSU. They scheduled a non-conference game first week of the year. Absolutely demolished LSU against Jaden Daniels, who's the Heisman favorite right now. They had 3 top 25 teams, including a conference championship against a very good Louisville team who was ranked 14, I believe.
yeah,
Without their
Ranked
starting
14
quarterback,
without their starting
without
quarterback.
2 of their starting
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
they're on their third string. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ohio State and Cardell Jones, huh? Who went on to win the national championship.
the only
Uh,
difference is they threw for 55 yards
Yeah.
total in their championship game, and
And
Cardale Jones lit it up with
why
100.
do we have to why do teams have to blow out other teams and have these incredible offenses to be considered good? Why can't we have defensive low scoring games and still win games? Why can't your team be anchored around a good defense?
For the same reason that
Get
Iowa isn't being considered for a playoff game because
but they have
it's
2 losses. We're talking about an undefeated Power Five conference champion here.
True,
That's
if
not
we're
what they're.
talking about an undefeated Power 5 conference team without the reason that they're undefeated, which is their quarterback. If you didn't have any offensive production from them at all this year and they were winning these games, then I think you would have an argument. I think that if Jordan Travis was in the Heisman race, don't get me wrong, I think Florida State's getting screwed, and I feel bad for them. But you're talking about losing a play like the difference between JT Barrett to Cardale Jones was not nearly as significant as Jordan Travis to whoever started for them against Louisville. Like
Mhm.
55 yards passing total. And with a defense that's been good but not great, you're not talking about a perennial top 10 defense that they have. They've been good against Florida and Louisville. Like and they were good against Florida or LSU as well. But
See, I would agree with you if they had lost those games. They lose their starting quarterback and then their backup quarterback, and they still go out and beat a top 25 team. Are you kidding me? It is absolutely ridiculous that they left these guys out, and it's not like Alabama is playing lights out either. You alluded to it, they barely beat Auburn. They barely beat South Florida. They beat South Florida 17-3. They Alabama. I know. I agree with Jason. I think it's a money grab, and
they also beat Georgia.
they did beat Georgia. Not denying that, but they
It's the best
lost.
win in the country.
I agree with you. But if you want to go off of that, then why wasn't Ohio State considered, who lost to the number one team by a couple of 9 points,
6
8 points,
points.
6 points? Yeah, by one
Yeah,
score.
we would have won if we would have scored a touchdown in the final drive.
Yeah,
But the reason is because
because they're
the
not
Big
a.
Ten sucks. No, because the Big Ten sucks, and they have these dumb bylaws where it's East versus West instead of the two best teams playing in their conference championship. This is what Oregon had an opportunity to redeem themselves.
Mhm.
Alabama had an opportunity to redeem themselves. Ohio State doesn't. Ohio State loses one game. Sorry about it. You're out. I think that's BS too. But having said that, I think again, Florida State, I think when you are playing in a not super strong conference, I mean, they only had three ranked teams at the end of the season, and you aren't dominant at all on offense, and you're really only dominant against a Louisville team whose offense isn't what makes them good. So I just like you were losing the game against Florida the entire time. You end up coming back and you win that game, but I understand what you're saying. I just don't think there's. I feel bad
Same
for
thing with
Florida
Auburn and
State.
Alabama. They were losing that game the entire time,
And here's like the
and
biggest thing with
won
this.
on a fourth quarter prayer, or a fourth down prayer. Sorry,
You're good.
Jason.
My bad, I cut you out. Here's the I think the most important thing with this. Next year, we're not even going to remember any of this. Like there's going to
Very
be a
true.
12 team.
Yeah,
There's going to be a 12 team playoffs. So they wanted to make sure that they got the best product out this year. So there's
Makes sense.
something to remember. Because I think. Sorry, 1 second. Little of that sickness coming back. Okay, I think.
sorry, pal.
I think you're fine. I think if there was it was going to be another 14 playoffs this year, then they would have never done that. Next year, they would have never done that because you can't make that same mistake because then that would have forced bigger issues. Now you have next year there's going to be a 12 team playoff, so what does it matter? So you know what I'm saying? Like they have a backup excuse. Like you can't already change what's already been changed. Like if if they didn't have it already set up for next year, I think they would have had to double down on the Florida State.
Maybe we'll never know. We feel bad for Florida State. Still excited to see Washington play Alabama and Texas. I'm sorry, Michigan play Alabama and Washington play Texas. This is what that playoff picture looks like, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Closest lines to be released since the college football playoff started. Alabama is 1.5, I believe, point dogs, or at least they were when I checked earlier this week to Michigan, and Washington is 4.5 point dogs to Texas. Should be an amazing game to watch. Other college football news. We have the transfer portal. Uh, Lots of names. Jason, how many people are in the transfer portal now?
I believe it was over 3,000. I couldn't find the exact number, but from when I saw it earlier, it was over 3,000.
It's crazy to think that basically just because of NIL and transfer portal have just absolutely changed what college football has become. We have now thousands of people who are moving all over the place. The big quarterback names are Dante Moore, Cam Ward, Riley Leonard, DJ Uyunglele, Grayson McCall, and Kyle McCord. It's OSU apparently. Now, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but last reports I heard, Cam Ward coming to Ohio State.
I'm hoping. From what I saw recently, Riley Leonard is looking to go to Notre Dame. Dante Moore, who I wanted the most, is looking to go to that team up north. Blech. And we honestly don't care about the rest of them. So, Cameron Ward. Hopefully, he's the option for Ohio State. I would rather have Riley Leonard, in my opinion. I think he's going to be the most NFL ready quarterback from this group of players.
It's crazy what's going to happen. Teams are going to be different. I think something people don't talk about, if you're not in that final four of the college football playoff, how does this stuff affect your team? For instance, Kyle McCord gone. He's probably not playing against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. How does that affect lines? How does that affect team? Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to play? You know, all this stuff now is like, because you can enter the transfer portal in December as soon as the
Yep.
regular season's over. It's crazy to think. What about teams in the Final Four? You know, what if there's a couple players that are entering the transfer portal? How does that hurt team chemistry? It's just interesting to see, and it'll be interesting down the stretch. That pretty much wraps up college football. Thanks for watching this video of the Unnamed Sports Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on social media at Unnamed Sports S. Also, be sure to join us live Wednesdays at 7 p.m.